smoke kind of puts them all, see how they're all kind of getting back in, so it calms them down. They run away from the smoke. It calms them down. See up here in this corner where they've got the white building up?
Yes.
So they're starting to build a honeycomb there.
Okay.
All of these that you're seeing are worker bees. So these are all female pretty much that you're seeing.
The worker bees are female?
All the worker bees are female. So a huge portion of the hive, what, 90% or so or more, are female. All right, here we go. So we've got a lot going on this hive. This is going to be a heavy hive.
Oh, I see some honey. Wow, look at that.
Okay, so the top part is all honey.
Uh-huh.
Do you see that middle part that's light brown?
Yes.
So that is brood. That's covered up larvae that are going to hatch into bees.
Oh, more baby bees coming their way.
And then if you look down in the bottom, do you see the white? You can see the larvae in there. They're
Yes,
not covered yet.
I can see it.
So what they do is they make that honey and they store that for winter. That's what they eat. So the queen will lay up to 1,500 eggs a day. We started out with 20,000 bees, and we'll end up, in no time, we'll have about 40,000. Yeah, give me some good smoke right here.
I know one of the questions is, why did you decide to get a beehive?
So there's many reasons we decided. First off, bees are, becoming endangered. They're very important to our ecosystem. So we wanted to do our part and help there. But if I'm being honest, it also saves us money. We get a tax break for an ag exemption or an agricultural exemption for raising bees. And they're just fascinating.
They are. So I see one that's got a lot of yellow on it.
Okay, so that's pollen that you're seeing there.
Uh-huh. How do you know which one is the queen?
So she is shaped differently, and right now we should be lucky enough. She has a blue spot on her back because when we got the hive, she was painted.
So she doesn't wear a crown.
She does not wear a crown, but she is bigger than the rest. If you look right there, there's one that has pollen on its legs.
I see it. Well, I see one right there.
Yep. Right there in the middle of the hive. One of the questions, I believe, was how do they get pollen? So a single bee can visit up to 1,000 flowers in one day. And that bee grabs pollen off of the flowers through hair on its legs. They use that pollen, they stick it in sacs on their hind legs like we just saw, and that pollen is their source of food. It's a big source of protein for them.
How about sweat bees? Do you know what those are? Have you heard of sweat bees?
So yes, sweat bees. I'm going to let my assistant, who's holding the camera, answer that one.
They're just a different species of bees that tend to be attracted to perspiration, and that's where they get the sweat bee from.
Ooh, okay. Thank you. Taryn was wanting to know about sweat bees.
That was a good question. We had to look that one up, I'll tell you.
So don't get sweaty around bees.
Another good reason to make sure you're practicing good hygiene. Give me some smoke. Give me. There's a queen right there.
I see the queen.
See how she's shaped differently?
All right, we got the queen bee. She is huge.
Shaped very differently.
And that is a bright blue spot on her.
And that's
Hold it flat.
There you go.
and that's just paint.
Uh-huh.
That will eventually come off.
Hello, my third graders.
I wanted to introduce you to our beekeeper, Ginger Browning, also my BFF, also the person that I go to my Duran Duran concerts with.
Hi, everyone.
So we're going to do and just have her answer some questions. Kern wanted to know, is it just the females that sting or do all the bees sting?
Only the females sting. The queen is actually not able to sting. Her stinger is built different because that's also how she deposits eggs.
Dorian wants to know, how much honey can a bee make in a day?
Not much at all. So a bee in its whole lifespan makes less than a teaspoon of honey in its whole life. A whole hive, so the hive that we saw earlier contains about 40,000 bees, and that hive can make up to 60 to 100 pounds of honey a year.
Valedia asked, why did you want to keep bees? And I believe we already had that answered. So we're going to move on. And how do bees make their hives?
So what you saw them kind of going around, and most of the bees in the hive are female worker bees. Those workers go around and deposit wax on hive, and so they make the little honeycomb out of wax. That honeycomb builds up, and those hives can be used for either eggs, which turn into larvae, and brood, which we saw. It's where they deposit their pollen and also where they keep their honey.
Okay, thank you, Samuel. That was a good question.
That was a good one.
And then we had one that Taryn asked about the sweat bees, and we've already answered that one. And so Danielle wants to know, how long do bees stay alive? What's the lifespan?
The average lifespan of a bee is about 120 to 150 days, or 4 to 5 months.
And Julian wanted to know how they get the pollen, and I think you explained that in the earlier when we were at the Beehive.
Yeah, so they have little hair on their legs, and they go collect pollen off the flowers, put it in the back pockets basically of their legs, and then take it to the hive and deposit it in the hive.
Okay.
And they come.
And Fala wants to know, does the queen bee make honey?
The queen bee's total job is to lay eggs.
And of course, Isabella wants to know, why do bees sting us then?
So when you saw the video, you saw all those bees looking up at us from the hive. Those are guard bees, and guards, just like any other guard, has to protect their hive. The stinger is for protection.
Okay, so Christine also asked about how long they can live. And now we have Addie's questions. Why did she want to be a beekeeper? I already answered that one. How does she get the queen bee to the hive?
So when we got our hives, the queen bee was already in it. However, if something happened to our queen, we could get a new queen. They come in a little box with a little piece of candy at the end, and they insert that box with only the queen in it. It's a mesh box. The other bees get to know her. They'll eat that candy out, and in 2 or 3 days, the queen comes in and takes over the hive. Now, for a natural queen, what happens is they will make queen cells in the hive itself. Those are a little bit larger brood cells where they do 5 or 6 queen cells, and they feed these particular eggs what's called royal jelly. That's all they get.
That sounds good.
Royal jelly makes them bigger and turns them into a queen. The other eggs and larvae do not get that, and they get that royal jelly throughout their larval life, and eventually a queen hatches.
So the last question that Addie asked is, were these bumblebees or were these honeybees?
These are honeybees. Bumblebees are very big, puffy looking bees. They look like marshmallow painted like bees.
Okay. And I think one last question that I have that I think you already answered. Why is it that we're studying bees when we're talking about the life cycle of plants?
So, bees are responsible for about 70% of the Earth's pollination. If we did not have honeybees, we would quickly lose off all the plants. which means then we would lose off animals, which means humans would go very soon after. So it's very important to keep these honeybees safe and healthy to our whole lifespan.
All right, well, there you have it, third grade. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys on Tuesday.
Thanks for inviting me, guys.